I'm Felix Peterson, and I was the director of the short film.
My name's Dylan Bain. I was the cinematographer on The Last Sit Down.
My name is Keanu Hughes, and I am the producer and first assistant director of The Last Sit Down.
My name is Michael, and I am the screenwriter in this film. To be honest, the film came to me through YouTube videos that I saw, ex-mob bosses that I saw, stories that they had been telling about situations where they had been put in sit down. So I sort of adapted it from real life events and then spun it a bit to fit our view basically that we were going with.
The location started out, I remember, firstly you go and do the standard thing, you email a bunch of people, everyone ignores you, you know. Okay, that's fine, you know, maybe they just don't check their inboxes. So you go in person, oh hi, how are you? I'm a film student, I'm filming this. No, everywhere no. And then it ended up being like a month out and we're still just there frantically going on about the location. And then
Thankfully, my roommate Surav, he managed to give us a blessing. He works at Portobello Road Distillery. Shout out to them, they did a great job and they absolutely made this film happen. But he's worked there and managed to get us access to the distillery where we'll be able to shoot on the 3 different floors and incorporate it all into the film as different sets. And honestly, thank you so much, Surav, to that, because that truly made the film. Sourcing the talent for the film was an interesting one. It was a long process, especially with it being a gangster film, and we had to truly be able to sell the layers of hierarchy within the family, as we couldn't just get all teenage actors or people like that trying to just play the role. So we had to set out some casting calls and backstage.
we initially had some actors. We weren't completely sold on them, and then it ended up being, 1 to 2 weeks out, and we were still struggling to find actors. And then ended up finding these people who just all nailed their roles just within sort of 2 or 3 days of each other, which was really nice.
Tony and Luca in the film couldn't have had anyone better, and they came through very well, putting some hard work on the film, especially with some we had a bit of a short time frame in the end, but we managed to put some good auditions, good rehearsals in, and I can't complain with their performance. They came through and did their work.
We spent weeks running around London, searching different stores, trying to find the right outfits for Tony, as well as the other cast members. In the end, we went on Amazon to order the fake blood, guns, stuff like that.
It was a good journey. It's a bit of good fun, extra stress to be it.
For this, we shot on Sony cameras because of their S-Log 3 and 10-bit internal recording. Each of these cameras were paired with a Tamron 28-75, except for some shots in which we used the Helios 44-2.
I had multiple calls with all the talents just to be able to truly develop their character and be able to make sure they understood what they were taking and what they were meant to be portraying on the screen, to truly be able to develop that authenticity of the role and be able to transfer that to the audience through the medium of the camera.
This would be the first time I would be cinematographer on a short film that I was directly part of from pre-production all the way through. And I think I was mostly intrigued but slightly anxious when it came to production.
Things were finalized, but things were still just just needed that final, the stamp was there, it was just needed to touch the book kind of thing. So of course you're tense and you're nervous, you've still got lots of work to do, because as every person in film knows, the week before, no matter how much planning you do, there always ends up being a crap ton of stuff that isn't done and you've got to do just the week before. So it's, on that side of it, there's the stress of that, but at the same time, wow, we're here. We're about to make something special. We've put all this work into it.
I think it was more so as this was probably my first time on set properly where I sort of had a important role. Even though I wasn't the director or the producer, I was like one of the voices in terms of what was taking place, because obviously I'd written it and I was a go-to for a lot of those things. Obviously there's a lot of nerve.
I remember day one, we arrived on the location and we saw all the talent coming through the door. I think at that moment it finally hit us that wow, we're actually making a movie. We've got the location, we've got the talent, we've got the crew, we have all the pieces for the puzzle. Now it's just time about producing it.
Production was a very intriguing time. I mean, just having to work with that many actors. I think we had on set 1.6 actors, and having to truly work and direct everyone and make sure everyone understands their role in the set or the scene, and how they're meant to be acting was a very good experience for myself.
So the first like 2-3 hours were a little bit slow. It was tough to get started because we were still, working everything out, setting up, and then from like 11 a.m. onwards, it just flowed. Everything just went the way we needed it to. We cut out all of the fight scene and then went with a completely different ending without sacrificing any of the story. And it was just, even that, there was not really much discussion had. It was, okay, nope, let's cross out this, and then we do this instead. And then that piece is that. The sort of organizing of people, again, was a challenge because we had around 13, including actors, crew and actors, maybe even more than that. So it was a lot of people, and I was obviously the only AD. So it's two different departments you're managing, because you're managing the actors on one side, you're keeping the actors quiet, you're getting the actors ready for their takes, and then it's the same thing with the crew. You're getting, you're going to. It was a lot of people management, but it was again, it was good. We had really nice and really friendly actors, so they sort of integrated really nicely into our group, and everyone in terms of sort of on a film set really sort of respected what we were trying to do.
I think the continuity thing, I took it on as a role, probably underestimating how difficult it was going to be. Yeah, I think there was quite a few problems with continuity, just in the sense that it was obviously such a large set in terms of what I'd seen previously. So obviously having to figure out everything, action sequences where people were standing, even small things were driving me mad, like food, water. So yeah, I think I think kind of underestimated it, and then as we got there, I think we realized it was a task that we really had to like take head on and stuff like that. So that's also almost like the backbone for the film, is making sure that it matches continuously and that people they're not able to point out errors.
A few challenges we faced were once initially arriving on location, there were a few things that we didn't consider the first time we'd visited. Just the placement of tables, practical lights, etc., power outlets. Just small things that in the end could hinder a production if not thought about carefully.
On the second day especially, I remember on point just having to, this is the day we had a moving shot, extended shot throughout the whole distillery, where we had a newspaper traveling from the ground floor up 3 flights of sets, and trying to just coordinate that with all the moving parts within the distillery. People, we were able to get the location for free, so being able to use that and coordinate with the people working there, and us getting the moving shot through with the audio, everything was a challenge, but it's something that we just persevered, and we kept running through rehearsals for it until we managed to get that shot, and it came out clean in the end. It was all worked. So I think it just showed that as long as everyone's striving for it, everyone's working for it, we can get through it.
The first one was the toilet scene. So we didn't initially plan to do the toilet scene in the toilet. We had planned to shoot this at the table. So we had, after day one of changing everything and getting away with only doing 30 shots out of the 80, it was then like, no, we're going to shoot this in the toilet. I was, no, we're not. No, schedule says this, shooting it here. And then again, it was one of those things that really beautifully, very quickly, like, we went up, the first 2 toilets we went into, tiny things you couldn't even fit. You could just about fit our actor, because he was 6'10", no, he was like 6'4", but he was a giant, so you could probably just about fit him in there. And then we're like, okay, so we're gonna get camera, sound, booth. And then we found this one toilet on the very top floor that was like, it wasn't huge, but it was spacious enough to get everyone in. And it looked so cool.
Probably the continuity, possibly the continuity. I think, personally, I'd say stuff like lines and dialogue possibly being changed, or suggestions and stuff like that. But obviously that went more towards the director in the end. So I think Felix handled that well, and that was like what Felix was delegated to do. So that was probably more an internal worry. But I think what actually presented itself as difficult was having people mess with the continuity, having to like fix the continuity constantly. You can't really anticipate what is going to go wrong. You kind of just have to be prepared for anything.
When production ended, it was an amazing feeling, it was done. All that hard work put into getting everything recorded, it was done. However, at the same time, I knew we hadn't reached the peak yet. We hadn't climbed the whole mountain. We still had the post-production process, which was going to be, I was just as excited for, but I couldn't wait to get the film done. But it was an amazing feeling just to know that production was wrapped and we managed to capture everything that we required.
I was ultimately quite sad. I mean, this was something that we'd worked on for months and spent so much time and dedication to making this project what we wanted it to be.
To be honest with you, a bit lost for a few days. I felt really, really like, if I don't have something like this to do, I am so bored. The fact that my phone wasn't ringing, the fact that I had nothing to sort out, there was no schedule to make, there was no one to chase up, there was no email to do. You know, you spend all this time doing something, you build up these relationships with all these different people, you're just like, wow, it's finished. So I was feeling quite lost, but then there was this sense of profound proudness that I really did feel. It was wicked, man. And then even, you know, the challenges that we faced getting up to that point, icing on the cake.
I think I was feeling quite relieved almost that we'd finally gotten over it. I think initially when we first met and we first spoke about it, it was all just thinking, well, is this actually going to take place? Because there's a lot of times you'll meet with people and speak about things and nothing comes of it. So I think to actually see that we'd actually filmed something, we had actors there, we had a great location, kind of just very satisfying but also very relieved. But then it was straight onto the voiceover and stuff, so it wasn't really a time for celebration or anything like that. Well, I had a voiceover in mind for the original character arc. Obviously, as scenes sort of changed and there was a lot of actors putting in their own vision and stuff like that and implementing it into the acting, I think we realised that a new voiceover had to take place, even if it was just small tweaks in order to tell the story we had. Once the cinematographer and the director managed to get a rough cut, I think from there that was really helpful, and we were able to just use that as a stepping stone in order to create a solid voiceover which then tells the story that I could visually look at. I think without that, the voiceover was really difficult because we were just guessing what might take place, what could happen, and obviously on the day stuff changes. So I think seeing a rough cut, working around that was good.
To be fair, it was all cameos from crew members actually for the film, but we organised a day where we just went around the city and chose a few different locations. We walked with the newspaper, sat down and started reading it. Overall, it came out very well, and I think it really did manage to tie the story very well together and give that sense of you're still in a big city and this is news that everyone's seeing and therefore is a big deal in that sense.
When it came to post-production, I started off by syncing the audio with all the clips. There were a lot of different takes from each day, so that required a lot of time and effort just syncing the audio and organizing them into the appropriate folders, which made it much easier when it came to actually editing our first draft together.
First one, I just played around a bit with the moving around different aspects, different portions of the film and just seeing how it could work. Another, of course, within the scenes, it's more finding your favourite takes. In that sense, with all the right emotion, your favourite emotion from it. But beyond that, with the, as in the intro sequence, with the that montage, how you want to interplay that and get that going together. Getting that first edit through was also very nice to see everything come together. But it's still a lot of work to be done, having to create the whole world behind with audio and everything else. So it was lovely to see, but it still reminded you that you had a lot more work to do. Every scene has got an underlying emotion to it, an underlying tone, and it was just finding something that's not too intense, something that could fit the vibe very well, and I think which ultimately worked. We used 5 or 6 different songs from Artlist, just short 30-second snippets here and there to be able to truly create that atmosphere behind the words and the actions and the screen.
I think a lot of people don't realize that the sound is half the film. Yeah, you can have great visuals, but if your audio is bad, then it really brings down the whole project.
I find I'd rather have worse visuals and better audio than absolutely amazing visuals and terrible audio, because just the actual visuals is what keeps you there, but to get truly immersed, if it's terrible audio, you're not in that world.
And that's me. Well, no. Not the people you've just seen, but the lucky man they're reading about in the paper, Luciano King. You're about to meet me shortly.